Hi everybody, this is Vet. Welcome to my studio. I've had a lot of requests about the swirling paper that we did at one of the craft events. So I'm going to show you real quick. This is what it looks like after you cut it. And a lot of different options that I'll be showing you. And when the wind blows, they twirl around. Very cool. Here's another option of cutting, not just in a circle, but if you cut at an angle, it comes out like that. So what I'm going to do is show you real quick how that's done. I am using some recycled spin art from the Texas State Fair. Thank you, Big Tex, for that. And we're going to need scissors. You're going to need some string or ribbon or yarn, just for holding purposes. You're going to need a marker. It can be a permanent marker or just a regular water-based marker, and a hole punch. This is a cardstock. It works better because it's nice and hefty. If you're just using construction paper, it might tear when the wind blows. So cardstock is best. And this has already been cut. It's about a 8 by 8. So the first thing I'm going to do, because the spin art has already made a nice circle, I'm going to cut around the largest piece, the largest line there. Okay, so I don't need to use my marker for that. So very quickly what I'm going to do, and it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, what I'm going to do is just get as close as I can to making a circle. Because once you put your other cuts on there, you won't be able to see that's a little bit off. Now what I'm going to do is to flip it over, and I'm going to draw a spiral. And start here at the end and go around and around and around. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay? And that's just from the recycling where somebody left their thing. So I'm going to cut on the line. Make sure you're not making it too skinny, because when you make your additional cuts, what will happen? It'll fall apart. So what I'm going to do is very quickly and easy, because I love easy, I'm going to cut all the way around until I get to the end. And again, you can cut it thinner, but what happens is after a while, the paper will relax. And if it's really thin, it's going to wind up dripping down to the floor. Okay, so now I'm going to pull very gently, and you could stop at this point like I had with the first one I showed you, and it makes a really cool spiral, but I like things over the top. So what I'm going to do is draw some lines that are at an angle, a diagonal, all the way around my spiral. And again, it doesn't have to be perfectly measured, but this gives me a guideline as to where I'm going to make my little tiny cuts. After a while, if you do about 100 or so, you won't need to make lines. You'll know how far to space them. And now I'm going to cut on those lines that I made. Be very careful, however, when you're cutting. Make sure that you're always cutting away from you. I have a lot of students that sometimes cut like this, and that's really kind of awkward. And you run the risk of cutting yourself. So we don't want to do that. So always cut away from yourself and move your project. Okay. And if you skip one, it's no big deal. You can always go back and cut it later. Okay. So it's actually easier to hold it at the bottom because I'm right-handed, and all I'm doing is just cutting. If you get tired of cutting all these little tiny ones, it's okay to skip a few and just cut. Of course, the more cuts you make, the more interesting it is. And if, like again, if you miss a spot, no big deal. You just want to make them fairly even. Okay, try not to cut the rounded part, because that's where you're going to put your hole punch. Okay, now that I've had it cut, what I'm going to do, starting here at the end again, is I'm going to fold this up. You can fold every other one, or you can fold every one. And you'll notice it starts looking like a bandsaw or some kind of a blade, but it's a good kind because it doesn't cut you. So all I'm doing is just folding these down one by one, all the way around. And you kind of get into your zen place after you do a few of them. And at first it will seem like you will never get finished, but I promise you it's worth that few extra seconds. And obviously I'm folding mine really quick, so you can fold them quick or slow, you get the same result. And it really doesn't take very long. Now once you get down to the very end, again, you want to be very careful when you're working with cut paper. Number one, paper will cut you back. You cut it and now you have sharp edges. So you have to be really careful. Okay? And your paper is really fragile. Even though this is cardstock, or you can use tagboard, it's still pretty fragile. So now I'm going to fold this back right through Big Tex's head. Sorry about that. But you can see how the pattern is forming. Alright. And I'm going to help the paper relax. You pull very gently. You don't want to tear it, but you want it to relax just a little bit. So just give it a small stretch. And I'm going to take my hole punch, punch through there, take my string, string it through. And you don't need a really long one. And then you just tie a flat knot or 2 overhand knots. That keeps it from coming apart. If you only tie one knot on any project, over time it will come apart. So you always want to do at least 2. 3 is even better because it locks your string into place. Nice and tight. So now it is ready to hang. Okay. Cool. All right, I'll see you next time.